Hey everyone, Linus here. Today we are diving into something super cool. We are talking about Kali Linux. What is Kali Linux, you ask? Think of it like a special toolbox, but instead of hammers and screwdrivers, it has tools for computers. These tools help good guys called ethical hackers. They use Kali Linux to find weak spots in computer systems. This helps make computers safer for everyone. It is like a friendly superhero for the internet. Kali Linux has hundreds of pre-installed tools. These tools can test networks, websites, and much more. It is built on Debian, which is a very stable and reliable type of Linux. This makes Kali powerful and trustworthy for important security work. Learning Kali Linux can open up many doors. You can understand how hackers think. Let's get started on this epic quest. Alright, before we can build our awesome Kali Linux setup, we need some tools. First, we need the Kali Linux ISO file. An ISO file is like a digital DVD. It contains all the files needed to install Kali Linux. We will get this directly from the official Kali Linux website. This is very important to make sure it is safe and not a sneaky fake version. Second, we need VMware Workstation Player. VMware is a virtualization software. That is a fancy way of saying it lets you create virtual computers. This virtual computer will run Kali Linux. It is separate from your main system. This is great because if you mess something up in Kali, your main computer stays safe. We will download VMware from its official website too. Always get software from official sources. Go to the Kali Linux website. Look for the download section. We want the installer image. Make sure you pick the 64-bit version. The download might be big, a few gigabytes. Once both downloads are complete, we are ready for the next step, installing VMware. Okay team, we have our downloads. We have the Kali Linux ISO. We have the VMware Workstation Player installer. Now it is time to set up our virtual arena. We need to install VMware Workstation Player first. This program will host our Kali Linux virtual machine. The installation is usually very straightforward. It is like installing any other program on your computer. Just a few clicks here and there. Find the VMware Workstation Player installer file you downloaded. Double-click on it to start the installation wizard. A window will pop up. It will guide you through the process. Read the instructions carefully. Usually you just need to click Next a few times. You will need to accept the license agreement. Make sure you read it, or at least pretend to. It is standard stuff, but it is always good to be aware of what you are agreeing to. During the installation, VMware might ask you a few questions. It might ask if you want to install an enhanced keyboard driver. This can be helpful, so it is usually a good idea to say yes. Finally, the installer will ask where you want to install VMware. The default location is usually fine. Click Install. Alright, VMware Workstation Player is installed. Pat yourself on the back. You are doing great. Now, it is time for the really exciting part. We are going to create our virtual machine for Kali Linux. Open VMware Workstation Player. You should see a home screen. Look for an option that says Create a new virtual machine. This is our starting point. Click on it. A wizard will pop up to help us. One option is Installer Disk Image File, ISO. This is the one we want. Remember that Kali Linux ISO file we downloaded? This is where it comes into play. Click the Browse button. Navigate to where you saved your Kali Linux ISO file. Select it. After selecting the ISO, click Next. VMware will then ask you to name your virtual machine. You can call it Kali Linux or something cool like My Hacking Lab. Click Next again. Section 5. Power Up. Giving your Kali VM some muscle, RAM, and CPU. We have created the basic shell for our Kali Linux virtual machine. Awesome. But before we fire it up and install Kali, we need to give it some brains and brawn. I'm talking about customizing the hardware settings. On the last screen of the new virtual machine wizard, before you click Finish, you should see a button that says Customize Hardware. Click on that. First, let's talk about memory, or RAM. The more RAM you give it, the more things it can do at once without slowing down. Kali Linux can run on as little as 1 GB of RAM, but for a smoother experience, especially if you plan to run multiple tools, 2 GB or even 4 GB is much better. Next up are processors, or CPU cores. The more processor cores you assign, the faster it can think and process tasks. Once you have set these to your liking, click Close on the Hardware Settings window. Then, back in the wizard, click Finish. Section 6. Making space. Setting up the virtual hard drive. We have talked about RAM and CPU. Now let's focus on the virtual hard drive. This is where Kali Linux will be installed. All its files, tools, and any work you do will be stored here. When you were creating the virtual machine, the wizard asked about disk capacity. It probably suggested around 20 gigabytes. For a basic Kali Linux installation, 20 gigabytes is a decent starting point. You can always start with this and see how it goes. Once you are happy with the disk size and settings, you are all set for storage. Section 7. Connecting to the grid network and display settings. Our Kali Linux virtual machine is almost ready for its grand debut. We have given it memory, processing power, and storage. Now let's quickly look at how it connects to the world and how you see it. I'm talking about network adapter and display settings. For the network adapter, VMware gives you a few options. The most common and usually the best one for beginners is NAT, which stands for Network Address Translation. It means your virtual machine will share your host computer's internet connection. It is like your VM is hiding behind your main computer. Your VM gets its own private IP address. It can access the internet, but other devices on your local network will not see the VM directly. They will only see your host computer. This is generally safe and easy to set up. It just works. For the most part, the default display settings should work just fine. With network and display settings checked, our virtual machine is truly ready. Section 8, the big install bringing Kali Linux to life. This is it, folks, the moment of truth. We have VMware installed. We have our virtual machine created and configured. It has RAM, CPU, a hard drive, and network settings. Now we power it on and install Kali Linux. In VMware Workstation Player, select your Kali Linux virtual machine from the list. Then click the big green Play Virtual Machine button. This will start your VM. Because we told VMware to use our Kali Linux ISO file, the VM should boot from that ISO. It is like putting an installation DVD into a new computer. You will see a Kali Linux boot menu. It will have several options. Use your keyboard arrow keys to navigate. We want to choose Graphical Install. This option provides a user-friendly, mouse-driven installation process. It is much easier for beginners than the text-based installer. Once you highlight Graphical Install, press Enter. The installer will start loading. It might show some text scrolling on the screen. Do not worry, this is normal. It is just Kali preparing itself for the installation. Section 9, you're in. First steps in Kali Linux and beyond. The installation progress bar has finally reached 100%. Congratulations. Kali Linux is now installed on your virtual machine. The installer will tell you that the installation is complete. It will ask you to remove the installation media. Since we are using an ISO file, VMware usually handles this automatically when you reboot. Click Continue to reboot your virtual machine. This time, it should boot into your newly installed Kali Linux system, not the installer. You will see a login screen. This is where you use the username and password you created during the installation. Enter your username. Press Enter. Then, enter your password. Press Enter again. And boom! You should be looking at the Kali Linux desktop. Take a moment to appreciate it. You did it. You successfully installed Kali Linux in VMware. The desktop environment is usually XFCE, which is lightweight and fast. You will see a menu button, usually at the top left. Click on it. You will see a huge list of categories. And under those categories, hundreds of tools. This is the power of Kali Linux, all at your fingertips.